What happens when a CEO trades his corner office for a steel-toed boot and a loading dock at dawn? Adam Foster had built his logistics company from the bones of a failing shipping chain he bought 8 years ago. Back then, it was 15 warehouses and 5 barely functioning trucks. Now, it was 20 hubs across 5 states, with hundreds of employees moving thousands of packages every day. But lately, something had been gnawing at him. Turnover had spiked at one of their largest distribution centers in Ohio, and complaints from customers about late shipments were piling up. He'd asked for reports. They all looked fine on paper. But Adam didn't trust paper anymore, so he shaved his beard, dyed his hair a dull brown, and borrowed clothes from one of his nephew's baggy jeans, plain hoodie, and a backward baseball cap. He used a different name, Evan, and signed up as a temp through a third-party staffing agency they'd just started using. The managers at the Ohio hub had never met him in person. Most only saw his face in quarterly emails or company-wide video calls, and now, with his disguise, no one looked twice when he walked into the break room at 4:55 a.m. The warehouse was buzzing. Forklifts beeped. Conveyor belts rattled. A few workers were already outside, loading the first wave of trucks. Adam grabbed his gloves and joined them. "Hey, new guy," someone shouted. "You got arms or just decoration?" It came from a tall, broad-shouldered man in a gray hoodie with a faded team leader badge clipped to his belt. He was tossing boxes into the back of a trailer with speed and zero care for what was inside. Adam walked over. "Where do you want me?" "Start with those pallets," the man said. "And don't be slow, we're not here to babysit." Adam nodded and got to work. The boxes were heavier than he expected. His back reminded him he hadn't done physical labor in years. After 10 minutes, he was sweating. After 30, he was struggling to keep up. Beside him, a younger guy, couldn't have been older than 19, was fumbling with a scanner, trying to log the right shipment. His hands shook every time he pressed a button. Adam caught him glancing at the team leader nervously. "You load with those hands, rookie," the team leader barked. "Or are you just trying to break everything so you can go home early?" The kid flinched. "I'm just trying to log it right." "Oh, you're trying. Wow, everybody, he's trying," the man said loudly, waving his arms. A few others chuckled, but most looked away. The kid turned red, head down. Adam felt something in his chest tighten. He kept moving, but his eyes stayed on the scene. The team leader leaned in close to the rookie. "You screw up one more barcode, and I'll make sure you get moved to night shift." "You want that?" "No, sir." "Then quit acting like you don't belong here." Adam's jaw clenched. He had seen enough, but he couldn't blow his cover, not yet. He spent the rest of the morning lifting, scanning, watching. The rookie, his name was Kyle, kept working, quieter now, flinching every time the team leader came near. Others moved fast but avoided eye contact. Adam noticed broken boxes being taped up and tossed into trucks without inspection. Safety rules ignored, workers lifting too much alone. The team leader, his badge said Reed, was everywhere, barking orders, cracking jokes at people's expense, and never actually touching a box himself. By lunch, Adam's back ached and his hands were raw. He sat at a plastic table with Kyle, who barely touched his sandwich. "You okay?" Adam asked. Kyle nodded quickly. "Yeah, just tired. Been here long, 3 weeks. First job since high school. Reed always like that." Kyle looked up, surprised. "You noticed?" "Hard not to." Kyle hesitated. Then, "I was gonna quit last week, but I need the paycheck. My mom's not well." Adam didn't ask more. He didn't need to. He knew that look. When the lunch bell rang, Adam stood and looked around the room. 20 workers, tired faces, some laughing, some checking phones, some sitting alone. He knew what he had to do next. He was coming back tomorrow. Not as Evan, as Adam Foster, and things were going to change. At 6:00 a.m. sharp the next morning, Adam walked through the same side door of the Ohio distribution hub, but this time, he was wearing a button-down shirt, steel-toed boots, and a visitor badge that read, A. Foster. Reed leaned against a pallet jack near the far dock, sipping from a paper cup. When he saw Adam, his posture straightened, but his expression stayed guarded. A few warehouse workers noticed too. Some froze, others whispered. Kyle was unloading a truck near the far bay and didn't see him yet. Adam walked slowly, giving people time to recognize him on their own. By the time he reached the center of the floor, the room was practically silent except for the hum of conveyor belts. He didn't raise his voice. "Reed," he said, stopping a few feet from him. "Let's talk in private." Reed opened his mouth like he was about to ask a question, then thought better of it. He nodded, set his cup down, and followed Adam into the small operations office overlooking the floor. Inside, Adam didn't sit. "I was here yesterday," he said, "working beside you." "My name was Evan." Reed blinked. "I watched you humiliate a teenager who's trying to hold his life together while showing zero leadership yourself. I saw trucks loaded without proper checks, safety ignored, and morale in the dirt." Reed let out an awkward laugh. "Wait, you were that guy." "Look, I didn't know. I'm not interested in excuses." Adam's voice stayed flat, but his jaw was tight. "I'm interested in whether you think this is how teams should be run." Reed shifted his weight. "It's a tough floor. You gotta keep people sharp or they start slacking. You wouldn't believe how lazy some of these temps get." "I didn't see lazy people," Adam said. "I saw people working without guidance, without respect. I saw damage being pushed through just to hit numbers. I saw you standing around, mocking others, not lifting a single box." Reed's face darkened slightly. "You don't understand what it's like down here." Adam stepped closer. "I understand perfectly. I built this company with my own hands. I've loaded trucks in the rain. I've driven overnight to meet a deadline. What I never did and never will tolerate is treating people like they're disposable." Reed looked at the ground, jaw clenched. "You're relieved of duty effective immediately. Security will escort you off the premises, and your final paperwork will be processed today." Reed didn't argue. He walked out of the office stiffly, eyes forward. As he disappeared down the hallway, Adam turned back to the floor. He stepped out onto the elevated walkway and called to the shift supervisor. "Dion, can you gather the team in the break room?" Dion, a wiry man in his 40s with a clipboard under one arm, nodded and moved quickly. Within 10 minutes, the workers were packed into the space, some still with gloves on, others holding half-eaten granola bars. Adam stood in front of the whiteboard. "I'm Adam Foster," he said. "Founder and CEO." Some eyes widened, others didn't know where to look. "I came here undercover yesterday because I wasn't getting straight answers. I've seen enough to know that what's happening on this floor isn't right. That ends today." He paused, letting the silence settle. "We've removed your team lead, effective immediately. A new interim lead will be appointed while we evaluate permanent candidates. Starting today, every employee will have access to anonymous reporting for safety violations and mistreatment. And starting next week, we're rolling out a 3-month bonus program tied to quality, not just speed." He turned toward Kyle, who sat near the coffee machine, hands in his lap. "Kyle," Adam said, "I watched you yesterday. You kept working even when it would have been easier to walk out. That kind of grit matters here. I'm offering you a permanent position, full benefits, and a mentor from our training team to help you grow." Kyle stared at him, unsure whether to stand or speak. "You don't have to answer now," Adam added, "but the offer stands." He turned back to the room. "This company is only as strong as the people who carry it. And right now, you're carrying more than you should have to. That's changing, and I'll stay here as long as it takes to make sure of it." No one clapped. It wasn't that kind of moment, but a quiet shift had already started. People met each other's eyes again. Some sat up straighter. A few nodded slowly. After the meeting, Adam didn't go back to the office upstairs. He rolled up his sleeves, pulled on a high-vis vest, and walked back onto the floor. Dion approached him. "You meant it." "You're staying, as long as it takes." Dion gave a short nod. "Then let me show you what we're really dealing with." They headed toward the sorting zone, where a conveyor belt jam had slowed down morning operations. Packages were backing up, and one worker with a brace on her wrist was manually pulling boxes from the belt to keep it moving. "Why is she doing that alone?" Adam asked. "She's the only one who knows how to fix the sensor when it glitches," Dion said. "We've asked for a second tech for weeks." "Noted," Adam said. "We'll fix that." As they walked, they passed 2 workers lifting a large crate. One of them, a woman in her 50s, winced mid-lift and adjusted her grip. Adam stopped. "Do we have powered lifts for these loads?" "Only 2, Dion said. "One's been out of service for 3 weeks. Get me the maintenance report and make sure she's not lifting anything else today." He crouched beside the crate, helped them finish the load, then turned to the woman. "What's your name?" "Marla." "Marla, thank you for pushing through. But no one here should be risking injury for the sake of a deadline. You deserve better than that." She gave a tired but genuine nod and walked off toward the break room. By afternoon, Adam had shadowed 3 floor teams, reviewed the backlog on equipment repairs, and met with the day shift supervisor for feedback on staffing. He learned that several workers were clocking 6 days a week to cover gaps. He also learned that the new third-party staffing agency had cut corners on background checks and orientation. No wonder people were quitting. Some weren't even being shown the right exits during onboarding. That night, he sat in the supply closet with a tablet, punching in notes. He wasn't going back to his hotel yet. Not until he knew they could start fresh tomorrow. He drafted emails to HR, operations, and legal. The staffing agency contract would be reviewed, equipment repairs would be expedited, overtime loads would be audited to prevent burnout. And 3 employees, including Kyle, would be offered direct mentorship tracks. There was no applause, no cameras. Just the sound of forklifts in the distance and the occasional pop of plastic wrap being stretched over pallets. But this was the work that mattered. And Adam wasn't leaving until it was right. The next morning, the warehouse felt different, but not by much. The night shift had left behind a partially cleared outbound dock, and Adam saw half a dozen workers already moving with a quiet urgency. The air wasn't lighter, exactly, it was more alert. Like everyone was waiting to see if yesterday's promises would hold. Adam stood by the intake ramp, clipboard in hand, wearing the same vest from the day before. He wasn't watching anymore. He was embedded. Dion was reviewing the manifest with one of the drivers when Adam spoke. "How many no-shows today? 3 temps didn't clock in. That's 5 in 2 days. Who's covering their lanes? Same crew that's been stretching since last week." Adam glanced across the floor. The youngest loader, a woman named Tasha, was already on her second truck. She was quick, methodical, but clearly burning through energy too fast. Her hoodie was soaked through down the back. "Double her up," Adam said. "Pull someone from the sort line if you have to. We're not running anyone into the ground." Dion gave a short nod and turned to relay the new assignment. As the shift moved forward, Adam rotated between stations. He didn't announce himself or give directives unless necessary. Most of the time, he asked questions, real ones. What slowed them down? What they needed that they didn't have? What they thought leadership never saw? By mid-morning, a new interim team lead arrived from the regional training group. Her name was Yvonne, and she'd spent 9 years running outgoing logistics at the Indiana hub. She was in her 40s, clipped her hair back tight, and carried a small black notebook everywhere. Adam introduced her to Dion and the other floor supervisors, then stepped back. Yvonne didn't waste time. She walked the floor with Dion, watching how the teams moved. She didn't speak unless she had something specific to ask. When she saw 2 workers shifting a crate between them using a bent dolly, she didn't call them out, she called maintenance. "Get this replaced by noon," she said, "or I'm pulling the dolly and we delay the load." "Your choice." It took less than 20 minutes for word to spread. The new lead wasn't soft, but she protected her people. In the break room, Adam sat with a different crew this time. Older workers. One of them, Jorge, had been with the company since before the acquisition. "You gonna be here every day now?" Jorge asked, peeling back a wrapper from a breakfast bar. "No," Adam said, "but I'll be here enough to make sure what's broken doesn't stay that way." Jorge gave a low chuckle. Long time coming. Adam watched the way the group interacted. They weren't disengaged, they were cautious. People who had seen too many promises fade out behind performance metrics and press releases. "What's one thing you'd change first?" Adam asked. "Scheduling," Jorge said without thinking. "We got people doing 6s and 7s back to back. Days bleeding into nights, not enough hands, everyone's fried." "You've told management that? Every week. We get told it's being reviewed," Adam nodded. "We'll stop reviewing, we'll start fixing." Back on the floor, Kyle was in the labeling zone, working beside a seasoned staffer named Lena. She was quick with a scanner and even quicker with corrections. Kyle was learning fast, and for the first time, he didn't look like he was bracing for impact. Yvonne walked past, stopped, and watched them in silence for a few seconds. Then she turned to Adam. That kid's sharp. Needs structure, but his instincts are good. Adam nodded. He's got a lot riding on this job. Most of them do, she said. It's always more than what you see on the badge. A few minutes later, a commotion drew their attention from the north end of the warehouse. Two workers, a temp named Malik and a line staffer named Brent, were arguing near the outbound scale. Voices were raised. Pallets had been bumped. Yvonne was there in seconds. "What's going on?" Brent, a wiry man with a shaved head and a permanent scowl, pointed at Malik. "This guy doesn't listen. I told him 3 times to load the heavy boxes first. He keeps screwing it up." Malik's hands were clenched at his sides. "I was doing what the checklist said. He shoved the scanner at me and told me I was useless." Adam stepped up beside Yvonne but let her take the lead. "Brent," she said, voice calm but firm, "did you push him?" Brent didn't answer. "Did you call him useless? He was wasting time." "That's not how we handle mistakes. You don't get to talk to anyone like that." Brent crossed his arms. "He doesn't know what he's doing." Yvonne didn't blink. "You're off the floor. Now, go to the office and wait." Brent made a noise in his throat like he was going to argue again, but something in Yvonne's eyes stopped him. He turned and walked off. Adam turned to Malik. "You okay?" He nodded, breathing heavily. "I just want to do the job." "You are," Adam said. "You're doing it right." Later in the office, Adam and Yvonne reviewed Brent's file. It wasn't the first complaint, not even the 5th. There were incidents going back over a year: disrespect, aggressive behavior, even a written warning for mocking another employee's accent. Adam closed the file. He's done. Yvonne didn't argue. They brought in HR from regional to handle the termination. Brent didn't protest. He stood in silence, took his paperwork, and left without looking at anyone. That afternoon, Adam stood at the far end of the warehouse, watching the last outbound trucks pull away. The floor was still humming, but smoother. The energy was tense in places, but it was no longer fearful. He walked over to Malik, who was organizing the last set of labels. "You handled yourself well today," Adam said. "I didn't want trouble," Malik said. "I just want to work. You're not here to take abuse. That's not the job." Malik looked him in the eye for the first time. "Does that mean things are really changing?" Adam nodded. "Starting now." He stepped away and pulled out his phone. There was still work to do. The staffing agency had to be replaced. He'd already lined up 2 regional recruiters to start sourcing directly. He had a long list of safety upgrades to review, including better lifting equipment and a request for a second-floor technician. But the biggest shift was already happening. The silence was breaking. People were speaking up. Not loudly yet, but clearly. And Adam was listening. The following week began in cold rain. Adam arrived early again, parking in the back lot where the asphalt sloped toward a runoff ditch. He sat behind the wheel for a moment, watching a pair of workers jog across the lot hunched beneath their jackets. The sky was still dark, but inside the warehouse, lights cut against the gloom in long, pale strips. He stepped in through the side entrance, nodded to security, and headed straight for the break room. There were quiet greetings now, nothing forced. A few heads lifted from coffee cups. The silence that once filled the room had thinned out, replaced by the kind of guarded calm that arrives when people are still waiting to see if good things will actually last. In the back corner, Kyle was folding a reflective vest over his bag. "Morning," Adam said. Kyle stood straighter than usual. "Hey, I'm on outbound rotation today. You good with that?" He nodded. "Lena walked me through the route changes. I think I've got it." Adam leaned against the doorframe. "You're not guessing anymore. That's good." Kyle gave a small half smile. "I'm starting to feel like I belong here." Adam watched him walk out, then looked around the room. A few new faces sat among the regulars, direct hires, not temps. HR had begun transitioning away from the staffing agency, and the difference was already visible. Orientation was clearer. Schedules more consistent, still not perfect, but better. He took a mental note to check in with training at lunch. Out on the floor, Yvonne stood near the central workstation, reviewing shift assignments with Dion. She glanced up when Adam approached. "Morning," she said without slowing her rhythm. "We've got a bottleneck at Dock 6. Scanner misreads. I've got Malik troubleshooting it with a tech from maintenance." "Good. How's the new crew holding up?" "They're doing the work. One issue, though." Adam waited. "There's tension on first shift. Not from the newer hires, from one of the old guard." Guy named Rick. He's been with the company since before you bought it. Keeps pushing back on process changes. Undermines instructions when no one's watching. Adam frowned. Why didn't we catch this earlier? He keeps his tone just below insubordination. But yesterday he told a new loader not to take directions from Lena because, in his words, she's just trying to climb by stepping on everyone else's work. Adam stared at her, jaw tight. Where is he now? Doc 2, working solo. I haven't said anything yet, wanted you to see it for yourself. Adam walked the length of the warehouse, passing rows of stacked pallets and moving belts. When he reached Dock 2, Rick was standing with a clipboard, checking a partial load. He was in his 50s, lean, with a gray cap pulled low. He didn't look up when Adam stopped beside him. Morning, Rick. Rick glanced sideways. Didn't know you were in today. Seems like you've been making some of your own decisions about how things should run. Rick shrugged. I've been doing this longer than half the people on this floor. I know what works. Then you know that undermining a floor lead, spreading comments about your own coworkers that doesn't work. Not here. Rick snorted. I'm not spreading anything. Just calling things how I see them. Then let me be clear about how I see it. If you can't follow chain of instruction, if you can't speak about your coworkers with respect, you're out. No warnings. You've been here long enough to know better. Rick finally looked him in the eye. You'd really cut loose someone who's been here this long? Adam didn't blink. Yes. Rick stared at him for a beat, then tossed the clipboard onto the crate beside him. Maybe it's time I'm done then. No problem, Adam said. We'll process your release today. You can leave your badge with security. Rick walked off without another word. Adam stood there for a moment, listening to the hum of the belt, then turned back toward the main aisle. Dion was waiting near the zone divider. He gone? Dion asked quietly. He's gone. Good. Adam walked with him for a bit. You think people will see that as just another boss swinging the axe, maybe, Adam said, but they'll also see that we're holding everyone to the same line. Dion nodded, then peeled off toward the inbound trailer logs. Across the day, the floor moved steadily. Doc 6's scanner was replaced by early afternoon. Marla, now reassigned to a lighter zone, worked alongside Tasha to organize inventory returns. The two had developed a rhythm, fast and efficient, Tasha pushing the pace, Marla catching mislabels with a quick eye. Midway through the shift, Adam pulled aside a few of the newer hires, Malik, Sarah from labeling, and a quiet guy named Dev who had started just 2 days earlier. They met in the small break room off the west side of the hub, away from the main floor traffic. I want to hear what your first weeks looked like, Adam said. Malik shifted in his seat. It's steadier. Yvonne's direct. People are actually showing me how to do things instead of yelling when I mess up. Sarah nodded. The pace is still brutal, but now at least someone's watching the clock. Dev hesitated, then said, I didn't know who to ask about bathroom breaks during rotation. I tried to wait until the half, but I didn't make it. Adam sat forward. No one told you could rotate out. No one said I couldn't, but I didn't want to risk looking lazy. Adam's jaw tightened. We'll fix that. Every new hire is getting a printed orientation sheet. Clear break policy, emergency protocol, chain of instruction. You'll have it by morning. Malik leaned back. Feels like things are being patched the right way, not just painted over. Adam gave a short nod. That's the goal. As the day wrapped, Adam stood by the exit doors watching the crew clock out. The rain outside had stopped, leaving the lot soaked and steaming under the late shift lights. No one rushed out. A few lingered at the time clock, talking in low tones. Kyle walked past, nodding as he pulled on his jacket. You settling into outbound. It's better than I expected, Kyle said. Lena's got the whole system in her head. She let me take lead on a full load today. Adam smiled. You earned it. Kyle gave a quiet thanks and stepped outside. Yvonne came up beside him, flipping through her notebook. We're light 2 hires for second shift. I've got coverage for tonight, but we can't hold it much longer. I've got approval from HR to accelerate the direct hire process. You'll have 5 more candidates by next Monday. Good, she said. If we keep losing people to burnout, we're back at square one. We won't, Adam said. Not if we stay ahead of it. She closed her notebook and looked at him. You're not just here to fix a floor, are you? I'm here to fix the culture that let it get this bad. Yvonne nodded once. Then we might actually have a shot. That night, Adam didn't head for the hotel. He stayed late in the upstairs office, the one he'd avoided during those first days. He sat at the desk, lights low, and pulled up the system dashboard. Productivity was climbing. Error rates were down, complaints had slowed, but those were just numbers. The real change was quieter, workers staying a little longer to help each other finish, people looking each other in the eye again. No one ducking behind forklifts when a supervisor walked by. He opened a draft memo to the executive team. We've made operational improvements at the Ohio hub, but the core issue was never about equipment or staffing. It was about leadership, what we tolerated, what we ignored, what we excused in the name of performance. That ends now. No more blind spots. No more distance between the floor and the decisions that shape it. We'll be rotating executives through quarterly site visits. Anonymous feedback will be reviewed monthly, and training oversight will be handled directly by regional leads. We owe our people better, and from now on, we'll deliver better. He saved the draft and leaned back in the chair. It was quiet again, but not the kind of quiet that came from fear or fatigue. This was the kind that came when the right things had finally started to shift. And this time, he wasn't leaving it to chance.